the owner.
Or the... Oh.
It is probably the single most important mathematical idea of all. The notion of proof by circle and line or ruler and compass construction means that geometry can be known about in a way that is different from knowing about physical things, and so makes geometry epistemically differentiated. Furthermore, starting from circles and lines alone and constructing a relationship using circles and lines alone makes the conclusions certain in a way that nothing else was at the time. In geometric reasoning, the argument and the conclusions were made supremely clear and evident to the senses. Indeed, the concept of proof, a mechanism that gave a warrant for claiming geometry to be perfectly and absolutely true, made geometry the very paradigm of what we mean true and certain knowledge to be. In effect, in our understanding of nature, true means true, like geometry is true.
Come go with me. Open your mind. Was all I ever knew. Finding the knowledge of the real world starts with the point of which has no parts. These are the axioms of life.
True.
And I take my chances with the old ways, finding the proofs in geometry.
Perfect.
And I don't care what all the sophists say. I find the proofs in reality. They were right.
We call this
We know that they were right.
true. We call this proof, like geometry is true.
Starting with circles and lines alone, constructing the nature of what's known.
We call this proof.
Conclusions are clear and the evidence seen. This 3D space works perfectly. And I'll take my chances with the old ways, finding the proofs in geometry. And I don't care what all the sophists say. I'll find the proofs in reality.
Geometry is true. Perfect. Absolutely.
And all around you is sinking sand. You have a place on which to stand. Foundations were already built for you.
Absolutely true.
Open your mind. And I'll take my chances with the older ways, hearing the words of what the ancients said. They say my words sound like sorcery, but there's wisdom in all honesty.
True.
Come go with me. Open your mind. Come go with me. We'll find the truth.
Absolutely true.
And we are live. Welcome, everybody. It is hump day, Trivium day. So thanks for being here. I know other channels are doing other things, but this is Trivium day. And today we are going to be going over rhetoric, mainly because this Friday coming, there will be the debate. The debate. All horizontals are ... and level is ... Bev, try thinking. Me and Blue Marble Science. Now, we're hoping to have a structured debate, but in going over that, we've done all of the other things, the argument, logic, and all of that sort of stuff. And like I've been saying, the thing that I need to learn, really, I think, is the obviously the grammar. I've never been really that good at grammar, but understanding the words, having the people around us that we do, that's easy to sort. But the rhetoric is something that I don't know. It's not even after going over this. I'm going to be reading a bit, so maybe it depends whether you like hearing me read stuff. But yeah, we're going to be going over a book, The Art of Rhetoric, by a dude called Aristotle. Now, it's an old book, but I think it's a bit more relevant than people may imagine. We've always been, people have had a go at us for talking about this old stuff, like the old geometry, and it's not moved on, but it's the foundations of stuff. Well, Aristotle was the guy that wrote about the foundations of logic, Trivium, the words, and how you put things together and how you come to understand it. So this rhetoric, I think, is very, very relevant. Now, there are some other things that have come from that, and I have been going over today an argument that I'm sort of I've been talking to these guys about it in the chat, but I'm sort of saving it for Blue Marble on Friday. So I'm going to be presenting a couple of basic arguments within this debate. But the rhetoric is something that I think it's worth going over because, it's a little bit more intricate than you think. Don't know. Does anybody want to go over anything else first? I mean, we have had Blue in here today. Thanks for being in here, and we have sorted out that Blue will be here on Friday. He's not keen on Emma being a moderator, but I have said that this Friday we shouldn't really need a moderator, but because of the way this debate's going to be, we need to have an introduction to it. And seeing as I'm going to be part of the debate, we can't really have an introduction to the debate by me. So that's what Emma's doing. Emma is the head moderator at this on the Level Discord server. So Emma will be introducing the debate at first, and then me and Blue Marble will do what we have to do. I mean, obviously, Blue Marble's a professional, and I'll try and do my best to live up to those standards. Just being a carer and all. But yeah, that's what we'll do this Friday. And yeah, Blue's been in confirming that today. I think he's been trying to find out a little bit of sneak info. Him and his team, they're on a fact-finding mission. They've always been over here in the Discord server. I don't know how many people keep an eye on some of the stuff that goes on, but yeah, there is some good stuff being talked about. I know, very simple, very basic, and you'd be surprised at how advanced simplicity can be, how deep it goes. Sort of inverse. It's great. Has anybody got any other things you want to go over before I start reading? I'll get the picture of the book if anybody wants to know what it is that I'm going to be reading. I'll put it in the chat.
Are we going to be going over a certain word?
That was sort of a build up to the debate. I think I should be giving that away.
Okay, leave it. Okay, yeah.
It's my middle term. So yeah, this is the book I'm going to be reading. That's the very book I'm going to be reading. Just took a picture of the front cover. The Art of Rhetoric by a guy called Aristotle. I bet he must have made loads of money out of this by now. He's already sold loads of it. It's sort of a lost art, this sort of thing. Right. Do you want to go know about the author? Yeah. About the author. This is Aristotle. As for Aristotle himself, we know a surprising amount about him, considering he lived such a long time ago. This is because he made quite a name for himself as an intellectual, polymath, and a pedagogue. He was also rather good at rhetoric. His parentheric years are 384 BC and 322 BC. So he lived into his 60s, which was a very good age for that era. Aristotle was a student of another famous Greek philosopher, Plato, who was the student of Socrates. Aristotle established hypotheses and theories that remained largely unchallenged until the Renaissance rebirth, when the principles of scientific research and experimentation allowed people to break free from established beliefs by providing empirical evidence and proof. So that proof, I'd say...
proof. Yeah. Did he say proof?
Yeah.
Yeah, and break free, like, was it a prison for people? Aristotle for, however long, 15, 16, 1700
I mean, yeah,
years.
That way it says, like, the scientific research and experimentation allowed people to break free from established beliefs by providing empirical evidence and proof, as if there wasn't proof before. Because, I mean, that's very different than what we've heard, isn't it, Essie? I mean, how we started this year was them not having proof. So how can you go from having proof to not having proof, but imagine that you now have proof? It's very strange how people envision different things.
They switched it around like everything else. The antithesis,
Yeah. So now as you're reading this, right, you're meant to believe that now we have proof, and Aristotle didn't. Yet the entire thing about this rhetoric is, well, you'll see. You'll see. I think it's very interesting the way that people talk about these sort of things now. This means that European culture was based on Aristotelian philosophy for about 2,000 years, until people were enlightened in bunny ears, until people were enlightened by scientific truths.
Wow, that's a swipe right there.
One of the go on, sir. Go on.
We are going back to superstition.
Yeah. Scientific truths, right? Break free from that old Aristotelian 2,000-year-old
Logical way of thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who needs that? Yeah.
Come to the enlightened bunny ears, as you say, an enlightened scientific truth. Different than normal truths, obviously. It says one of the reasons that Aristotle posthumously enjoyed such influence is that he had significant sway during his own lifetime. For example, he was the mentor of Alexander the Great, who went on to conquer nations and build the largest empire the world had yet seen, such as Aristotle's impact on ancient civilization, that his thinking simply was not bettered at that time. His successor...
Yeah, let's go conquer those people over there. That's logical. Yeah, sure. Uh-huh.
His successor is the lesser-known Theophrastus.
Yes, Theophras. Yes,
Theophras, who came up with a number of additional ideas on the workings of the world, but was destined to be remembered in the shadow of his three predecessors, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Following Theophrastus, the well of original thought dried up in the Athenian Lyceum, leaving the world in philosophical stasis for some time to come. Really?
Wow, they straightened everything out, huh?
Yeah. Okay, so that's a brief history of Aristotle. I consider it more of a time than a person. You can't hump all of this stuff on one person.
Yeah, group, yeah.
Well, it's just sort of a time. I'd call this enlightened. With the ability to talk. Spot on was saying that there's a like a debate that I think we should go over. And we should go over these a bit more, because that's what this is all about. The Trivium, I'm saying. A Trivium day is all about how to debate and how you formulate all of the, all of the things together to have a meaningful conversation. It's no good debating over something if it doesn't flow and it has no meaning to it. The idea is to go over this sort of stuff. And now this is right, because I said this is what I'm lacking, and I'll be quite honest with it. Not too sure whether I even understand what this is yet. This is obviously you've got the grammar, which is the words, the identity of the subject that you're talking about, and the best way to describe that thing. The truth value behind that identity. Obviously, that's plain to see. The logic part of it, you use these words with the truth identity part, and then you formulate them together within a logical structure, and the reasoning takes part, and that's quite easy to understand too. Well, the rhetoric, I'm hoping everybody's going to start coming, talk about this sort of stuff. If anybody needs to interrupt me about anything, I'll try. But the more I read this, the more it became clear to me that I don't think I can have the words to express what this is talking about yet. I haven't got the understanding of it, and I'm hoping it will come. Are you ready for this? Here we go. This start page 1, right? That other bit, there's a bit goes before, but this is page 1. Rhetoric, the counterpart of dialectic. Both alike are concerned with such things as come, more or less, within the general ken of all men, and belong to no definitive science. No definite science. Accordingly, all men make use, more or less, of both. For, to a certain extent, all men attempt to discuss statements and to maintain them, to defend themselves and to attack others. Ordinary people do this either at random or through practice and from acquired habit. Both ways are being possible. A subject can plainly be handled systematically, for it is possible to inquire the reason why some speakers succeed through practice and others spontaneously. And everyone will at once agree that such an inquiry is the function of an art. Now, the framers of the current treatises on rhetoric have constructed but a small portion of that art. The modes of persuasion are the only true constituents of the art. Everything else is merely accessory. These writers, however, say nothing about enthymemes, which are the substance of rhetorical persuasion, but deal mainly with non-essentials, the arousing of prejudice, pity, anger, and similar emotions have nothing to do with the essential facts, but it is merely a personal appeal is concerned with the modes of persuasion. Persuasion is clearly a sort of demonstration, since we are most fully persuaded when we consider a thing to have been demonstrated. The orator's demonstration is an enthymeme, and this is, in general, the most effective of the modes of persuasion. The enthymeme is a sort of syllogism, and consideration of syllogisms of all kinds, without distinction, is the business of dialectic, either of dialectic as a whole or of one of its branches. It follows plainly, therefore, that he who is best able to see how and from what elements a syllogism is produced will also be best skilled in the enthymeme. When he has farther learnt what its subject matter is, and in what respects it differs from the syllogism of strict logic, the true and the approximately true are apprehended by the same faculty. It may also be noted that men have a sufficient natural instinct for what is true, and usually do arrive at the truth. Hence, the man who makes a good guess at truth is likely to make a good guess at probabilities. It's now been shown that the ordinary writers on rhetoric treat of non-essentials. It has been shown why they have inclined more towards the forensic branch of oratory. Right, now, at this point, I'm going to have to go over the enthymeme, because this got me. Rhetoric, like that one, Emma, I did that for you. Where it said about the orator's demonstration is an enthymeme, and it is this, in general, the most effective of the modes of persuasion. The enthymeme is a sort of syllogism, and the consideration of syllogisms of all kinds without distinction. Right. So, first off, we need to know what the syllogism is. Now, it's very strange because paper we were talking about the syllogism just the other day. Right. So, do you know, paper, what the enthymeme is?
I'm not sure if I remember. It's like opposition of something. But,
It's a syllogism with a bit missing. One of the 3 bits of a syllogism is left out. In which case, you know, like the beauty of it, like he says, rhetoric is the use of persuasion. Now, what we've been doing recently is this the idea that
how it is written in English, this word.
Enthyme. Let me get this for you guys. It's the Enthymeme. There you go. It's on the page there. And I will get it for you guys in. There you go. Right. Boom. This is from Britannica. And that's the word there. Enthymeme. Is there a sound? No, there isn't. Not here. Right.
Enthymeme.
Enthymeme. In syllogistic or traditional logic, name of a syllogistic argument that is incompletely stated. In the argument, all insects have 6 legs, therefore wasps have 6 legs. The minor premise, all wasps are insects, is suppressed. Any one of the propositions may be omitted, even the conclusion. But in general, it is the one that comes most naturally to mind. Often in rhetorical language, the deliberate omission of one of the propositions has a dramatic effect. The use of the word differs from Aristotle's original application in prior analytics, right? So it's this idea that you take a syllogism, like, for instance, if A equals B and B equals C, then C equals A. You just leave one part of it out. And then that drives the people listening to put that thing in the place for them. Now, you can use that very effectively, because if you can persuade people to put something in a place that you didn't, then you can have power over that, because you can sway people. Now, whether you do it for good or for bad, the use of it becomes one of the tools, like he says, for persuasion. That's the whole point of this thing, is to be able to persuade somebody else. To me, this is how you fool people, or how people can be fooled. Because you can be led to believe something that hasn't ever been stated by the person talking to you. It's a very, very useful tool within this. Here we go. Here's a syllogism.
Yeah, which you yourself insert.
Yeah. Syllogism.
That's the beauty of it. Yeah.
Syllogism in logic, a valid deductive argument. Deductive meaning there is a definitive answer at the end. You can deduce something from it, having two premises and a conclusion. If A equals B and B equals C, there's your two premises. And then the conclusion is that A equals C. They're both equal to the same thing. You get rid of the B statement, right? A equals C. There's no B, but B is the common term between the other ones. If A equals B and B equals C, B is there in the middle. But you can deduce that A equals C from it. That's the basics of a syllogism, right? Now, like it says in this book, if you can be skilled within the knowing of all of the constituent parts of the syllogism, then you can omit a certain part of that in a conversation. And it's then up to the other person that's listening, whether they will put that other part in for themselves or whether they'll just plainly believe what you've said without the actual part that is the reasoning part, or maybe even the conclusion. If you leave the conclusion out, then it's left in the hands of the audience member, the person listening.
You can omit also middle term. For example, in this example, Aristotelian example, that Socrates is more. All men are mortals. Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal. You can omit middle term and say that if
all men are mortal, therefore Socrates is mortal.
Yes, you can omit middle term.
Yeah.
And it is still valid conditional because it is omitted, but it is implicit. This you can fill this middle term by your own.
Yeah, I think it's when you see the simplicity of what he states in this thing, it's just omitting part of a syllogism. Right now, a syllogism, a truly formed syllogism with the truth value formulated all the way, is a solid form of logic. Now, if you omit one of the parts of it, it doesn't make it less true. It still makes it the same thing. You've just omitted a part of it. Now, you've put that part within the rhetoric in the hands of the people that are listening. Now, some people may fill the gap in. Some people may not fill the gap in. Some people may fill the gap in with something that's not the same as what you would. Maybe not the same as the original syllogism, but that's the art of this rhetoric. By omitting something, you can draw that out of somebody to see how the conversation is being I don't know.
And this art of rhetoric includes that this rhetor, man speaking, is by this art is leading or suggesting this gap to fill by the audience. So audience is filling this gap. Let's say because it is led into that by suggestion, for example.
Yeah.
So sometimes it is this is the way how also sophists operate.
Yeah, there is a bit in that, you know, like he does separate the two, and it's a brilliant way that, you know, the people that wrote this obviously had much of a stronger understanding of how call it the wizardry works, the words, the how you formulate the words, how you place ideas into people's heads, how you persuade people to do things. It's all within this art of words. You know, you said the is it enthymeme, right? I'm thinking
Enthymeme.
break that word down. What is there a part to the meme? Because I always said that the meme was vital in what we do, right? In getting that message across, right? The meme, as seen today, it seems to be relevant within this word. Because what you're actually doing with the enthymeme is you're taking a part out of the syllogism and allowing somebody to put that part in themselves. Well, the meme is a similar sort of thing, isn't it? It's a fleeting glance of a picture or something that leads people to come to a conclusion or something. Hopefully, I mean the good ones.
Yes, you in memes, graphical memes, for example, you have to find out the thought behind that, what the meaning of the meme. So
and the better it's produced, like, so I suppose, like he said in this, the better you are at the actual syllogism and the more understanding you have for the constituent parts of the syllogism, then the more skilled you will be within the rhetoric to come up with the enthymeme. Right? Well, the actual meme is a breakdown from that, isn't it? It's more into the pictorial form of the idea of that, I think. At least that's what a meme was to me. It has to have some sort of a meaning. Yeah, that's like Saragaki says, a meme is the smallest unit of an idea. And you put that in a pictorial form in order to just spark something. That's, to me, that's what a meme, a true meme is. One glance at a picture is the same as being involved in the enthymeme when you're in an argument form, that dialectic. But like he says, the dialectic is rhetoric isn't dialectic. Although the idea of the dialectic is talking one-on-one to somebody, but the idea of rhetoric is for the people listening. You're not trying to influence and persuade your opponent within rhetoric. You're trying to outwardly convey that message to the people that are listening, I think. Although I'm still learning.
So ancient rhetors were skilled in producing speeches, long speeches. So this is not dialogue. This is just speech, long speech, rhetorical speech to persuade audience. For example, Cicero, if he wanted to persuade whole Senate into something, he wrote speeches like 20 minutes long to persuade whole Senate to something. And they voted, and if he persuaded most of them, he won. So, yes, this is speech, not dialogue.
Yeah. So everybody all right on that? Because I think the idea of the enthymeme, if that's right, I hope it is.
Also, one other thing.
Enthymisia means to remember.
So
In Greek.
enthy is what does that mean? Does that have a meaning of its own? Enthy?
I'm trying to figure this out. I'm trying to parse it out, and
But
yeah.
meme, it's for me, it's like something with memory. I think. I'm not sure.
Yes. But the whole thing.
Yeah.
Enthymemia, yeah. That's really weird, huh? The way they, yeah. Got to break that work down more. Check it out more.
But still, here they say this use of the word differs from Aristotle's original application of it. So,
like, let me give you an example. Like right now, we say thymame in Greek, right? That means I remember. So enthymeme, maybe it means enthy. I'm trying to parse that out.
Yeah, there's a bit missing. So like, yeah, there's the idea is that the person listening will have a part to play within the unformed syllogism. I think that's the idea, and within the basis of that, leaving a part out, you engage with other people in whatever sort of way. I mean, back in the day, that was the idea. I think it's gone beyond that now. Whereas this persuasion thing is, you're not taught about this. Nobody's, why would they want to tell you about how you get persuaded about certain things? But just know that the whole idea of this oratory sort of technique is to persuade people. Now, you could be persuading people of facts, of reality, of, you know, like letting people know things to find it out for themselves. But you could also be doing it another way. Don't think that's not what this book's about, right? So keep that in mind when I carry on with this. That the people we talk to may be using these techniques, but without actually knowing.
It's like almost like subliminal messaging kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Well, where a thought is inserted, but not directly into your mind kind of a thing.
It goes into it, like the understanding of what rhetoric is I think this is fascinating for me anyway. It opens up a whole new world. This, it says rhetoric is useful, 1, because things that are true and things that are just have a natural tendency to prevail over their opposites. So that if the decisions of judges are not what they ought to be, the defeat must be due to the speakers themselves, and they must be blamed accordingly. Moreover, 2, before some audiences, not even the possession of the exactest knowledge will make it easy for what we say to produce conviction. For argument based on knowledge implies instruction, and there are people whom one cannot instruct. Here then, we must use as our modes of persuasion and argument notions possessed by everyone, as we observed in the topics when dealing with the way we handle a popular audience. Further, 3, we must be able to employ persuasion just as strict reasoning can be employed on opposite sides of a question, not in order that we may employ it in both ways, for we must not make people believe what is wrong, but in order that we may see clearly what the facts are, and that if another man argues unfairly, we on our part may be able to confute him. No other of the arts draws opposite conclusions. Dialectic and rhetoric alone do this. But these arts draw opposite conclusions impartially. Nevertheless, the underlying facts do not lend themselves equally well to the contrary views. No, things that are true and things that are better are, by their nature, practically always easier to prove and easier to believe in. Again, or it is absurd to hold that a man ought to be ashamed of being unable to defend himself with his limbs, but not being unable to defend himself with speech and reason, when the use of rational speech is more distinctive of a human being than the use of his limbs. And if it be objected that one who uses such power of speech unjustly might do great harm, that is a charge which may be made in common against all good things except virtue, and above all against the things that are most useful, as strength, health, wealth, generalship. A man can confer the greatest of benefits by right use of these, and inflict the greatest injuries by using them wrongly. I find that absolutely amazing. I'd probably have to go over it again. Things that are true and things that are better are, by their nature, practically always easier to prove and easier to believe in. It's true. Becomes easy. It is clear then that rhetoric is not bound up with a single definite class of subjects, but it is as universal as dialectic. It is clear also that it is useful. It is clear further that its function is not simply to succeed in persuading, but rather to discover the means of coming as near such success as the circumstances of each particular case allow. In this it resembles other arts. For example, it is not the function of medicine simply to make a man quite healthy, but to put him as far as may be on the road to health. It is possible to give excellent treatment, even those who can never enjoy sound health. Furthermore, it is plain that it is the function of one and the same art to discern the real and the apparent means of persuasion, just as it is the function of dialectic to discern the real and the apparent syllogism. What makes a man a sophist is not his faculty, but his moral purpose. In rhetoric, however, the term rhetorician may describe either the speaker's knowledge of the art or his moral purpose. In dialectic, it is different. A man is a sophist because he has a certain kind of moral purpose. A dialectician in respect, not of his moral purpose, but of his faculty. Let us now try to give some account of the systematic principles of rhetoric itself, on the right method and means of succeeding in the subject we set before us. We must make it, as it were, a fresh start, and before going further, define what rhetoric is. So there he makes the difference between a sophist within a dialectic and a sophist within rhetoric. Because I think when you're a sophist within in the dialectic, you are taking an opposing view, right? With the idea of going against your opponent. Dialectic is two people talking to each other. So the sophist is the naysayer, or the one that just tries to convince somebody, gaslighting type sophistry, when you know what the actual argument is and you're just trying to convince somebody of the opposite. Whereas
you know you're lying.
Yeah.
Not like a parologist.
Yeah. Well,
Doesn't know he's lying. Yeah.
Within rhetoric, you're talking to an audience as you're talking to somebody else. Or maybe you're not even talking to somebody else. Maybe you're just giving a speech. Now, that type of sophistry is different than coming up against an argument and taking a sophist part of that. With this, there may not even be an argument involved. You may just be talking and using it in a bad way. But then it's up to the people that are listening, and their skills of understanding this.
Yes, certainly with an intent to influence.
Yes, so if you are using sophistry in the rhetoric from this text, I infer that this is like cheating. So you achieve your persuasion by cheating if you are using sophistry in the rhetoric, I think.
Absolutely. You're lying.
Yes.
Straight out.
Yes. So just lying.
Plain lying and knowing it. Yeah.
In a smart way to cover tracks that you will not be caught on a blatant lie.
Sneakily is the word. Yeah.
Yeah, you could even be playing the numbers game as well. Really, you only need to persuade a certain few, like you said with the speeches.
Yes.
As long as you get a majority, and if you can convince more, if you can be good enough like that.
Isn't that what politics is all about?
Yes, it
Convince
is.
the majority?
Always was.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Maybe not just politics, though, right? You must know certain people who get elevated to a status.
Yeah, every sphere of influence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Works like that, I would imagine, yeah.
Okay.
Or can be used in that.
Yeah. That's the part of this, isn't it? Okay, so I'll carry on. It says, this is to define what rhetoric is. Rhetoric may be defined as the faculty of observing, in any given case, the available means of persuasion. That is not a function of any other art. Every other art can instruct or persuade us about its own particular subject matter. For instance, medicine about what is healthy and unhealthy, geometry about the properties of magnitudes, arithmetic about numbers, and the same is true of other arts and sciences. But rhetoric we look upon as the power of observing the means of persuasion on most any subject presented to us. And that is why we say that in its technical character, it is not concerned with any specific or definite class of subjects. It's important, right?
That's it, yeah.
In order to do this, you don't need to be an expert at anything. This is its own art. And doesn't it sound familiar?
Oh, yeah.
So we can cheat about everything, not political things, but also with, let's say, scientific
you don't need to be an expert in any of the things, right? You don't need to be an expert in any of them. If you're an expert in rhetoric, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's the style in which you persuade. Doesn't matter the subject. It's the method that they're talking about. It's freaking ingenious.
Yeah, I mean, this takes it into new places, right? Doesn't it? Like, it opens your eyes to certain things that if you can become good at this, maybe you can become good at anything, really. But you can persuade people that you are good at these other things.
Politics, lawyers come to mind, but just about anything, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Science, geometry, mathematics.
Yeah.
Especially modern science, they use these people to persuade people into that. For example, astrophysics or whatever, they are telling stories, so they are searching for better storyteller. It means better sophist, better rhetorical skill, not better scientist. No, he can know only 2 or 3 equations in his field, but if he is good in rhetoric, they will put him on pedestal, and he will be leading high priest of this science.
Read what I wrote in the what I posted. I wish I would have wrote it, but in the live chat, they tie it to convincing the argument.
Yeah, it's persuasion, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, it's well worth knowing about that. There are people that can know absolutely nothing about a subject, but with their use of rhetoric can try to persuade you that they do. All you need to have done is heard a brief sampling of something. It's very, I would say, very easy to do that. Can't imagine why somebody would want to do that. I can't. It just seems, like trying to, like he says, you can do great harm with this stuff if you can try and persuade and convince somebody of something that isn't true.
Yeah. Somebody in the chat says real estate agents, car salesmen. Yeah, exactly, bro.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Of the modes of persuasion, some being strictly to the art of rhetoric and some do not. By the latter, I mean such things as are not supplied by the speaker, but are there at the outset. Witnesses, evidence given under torture, written contracts, and so on. By the former, I mean such as we can ourselves construct by means of the principles of rhetoric. The one kind has merely to be used, the other has to be invented. Of the modes of persuasion furnished by the spoken word, there are 3 kinds. The first kind depends upon the personal character of the speaker. The second, on putting the audience into a certain frame of mind. The third, on the proof, or apparent proof, provided by the words of the speech itself. Persuasion is achieved by the speaker's personal character when the speech is so spoken as to make us think him credible. We believe good men more fully and more readily than others. This is true generally whatever the question is, and absolutely true where exact certainty is impossible and opinions are divided. This kind of persuasion, like the others, should be achieved by what the speaker says, not by what people think of his character before he begins to speak. It is not true, as some writers assume in their treatises on rhetoric, that the personal goodness revealed by the speaker contributes nothing to his power of persuasion. On the contrary, his character may almost be called the most effective means of persuasion he possesses. Secondly, persuasion may come through the hearers when the speech stirs their emotions. Our judgments when we are pleased and friendly are not the same as when we are pained and hostile. It is towards producing these effects, as we maintain, the present-day writers on rhetoric direct the whole of their efforts. This subject shall be treated in detail when we come to speak about the emotions. Thirdly, persuasion is effected through the speech itself when we have proved a truth or an apparent truth by means of the persuasive arguments suitable to the case in question. Interesting that, isn't it? Number one, he said, let's go back. Modes of persuasion. Persuasion is achieved by the speaker's personal character. We believe good men more fully than readily. So it makes it's obvious why people try to convince other people that people may be liars and cheats.
Yes, so for example, if people are saying something bad about you, it is for preparation, the preparation of the audience. Let's not believe Bev because he is such as such. So whatever then you will say, and for example, in debate, the audience is already prepared because some people with big mouths just said something bad about you. So this is tactic, one of these tactics. Because
good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yo. Yeah, I've noticed this for quite a while. In fact, years. People have been saying shit about me. Only the other week, well, the other day, I bet probably today as well. Farmer's Boy's been saying I'm a liar. Brenda's been saying that I'm a liar. Rumpus has been saying that I'm a liar. All for one purpose, so that when a certain group of people listen to me, they think I'm a liar. So, but like he says in this book, this type of persuasion can go very wrong. It can be destructive. Because if people come to believe that everything I say is a lie, then what happens when I say a truth? What are you meant to think then?
It's a lie.
Yeah, but that can
That's
be bad.
the whole idea.
Yeah. Watch out, there's a car coming.
Don't believe it, it's Bev.
Yeah.
Stay there.
Yeah.
To their own peril. Yeah.
Is that Blue? Is Blue got a different account?
I don't know. I'm wondering the same thing. Big Blue, is that you? Is that you, Blue?
Yeah, it looks like it. He says that I can prove that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. The same thing, yep.
Is there something up with your other account, Blue?
Why do you need to have another account?
I think it's his alter ego. I think the big one.
Yeah.
I think he's bringing that one out for Emma.
I don't go anywhere without Rob Key.
He thinks we're abusing logic. Can you abuse logic?
You'd have to employ logic, wouldn't you? I don't think Blue's
like
doing
too much
that.
logic? Can there be? Can you employ too much logic? I don't get it.
Just finished making the brew.
Can you over logic something? Like Spock.
You can overdose rhetoric, yes, you can.
Rhetoric,
But
yeah.
logic,
Definitely.
no. No.
I don't think so, yeah.
Yeah, there's an art to this. With logic, it just is. There's no getting around it. You can't really lie with logic. Since logic is the finding the fallacies and going over that sort of stuff, then it's a bit hard for you to be able to lie with that. So the art of rhetoric it's a skillful art, as a lot of people will tell you.
You said something earlier, Bev, that I wanted to chime in on, but I was going grocery shopping quickly. And that is that this kind of stuff has not been taught for a long time. And you said, why would anybody, I think facetiously, right, or sarcastically, you said, why would anybody want to teach you this kind of stuff? And I think that's really important to contemplate for a moment, because for folks that are interested and want to know how the wool gets pulled over your eyes about anything, doesn't matter the topic, this is the type of stuff that Bev's talking about here. This is the type of stuff, these are the types of tactics that allow that to happen. So if you don't want to be taken advantage of, then learning these kinds of things is critical. Now, it comes with a warning. And I think some people know this, that, especially in the last 3 years, let's say, everybody knows what I'm talking about, that when you do question things, when you do bring logic to bear on certain things, don't be surprised when you find there's a lot of hate. I think that's probably the right word, maybe even stronger than hate, thrown your way. And we see that a lot of times in the YouTube chat with certain people. We saw it today in our live chat in the Discord server today. Literal hate and anger, because right because some of us wish to employ this kind of thinking that was just fine for 1800 years, 2000 years. I mean, do the math, whatever, 300 BC to the Renaissance, right? Whatever that is. Yeah, so it was fine for that long, but we needed to break free. Break free from what? And then not teach this to the little people, to the commoners, to the, uninitiated, right? It has to be the only people that get this kind of information or understand these kinds of tactics, or even get into to dialectic or rhetoric, is when you get to university. And what happens in university? That's where you complete your indoctrination, is in university. So this is, and then those become the shall we say, gatekeepers, the sophists, the parasophists, using these tactics. And I'll go back to what Dorothy, who was it? Dorothy Sayers wrote. Yeah. Going back there, saying that she lamented the fact. Again, I say this all the time because Bev read this before. Out of the Lost Tools of Learning, is we have left our children and our children's children out on this island, completely unprotected by the sharks that come around with these tactics in hand and utilize them to their purposes. So this is, in my opinion, this is important stuff. If you've got kids, if you've got grandkids, this is the kind of stuff you want to talk to them about, because they need to be prepared for how they're manipulated. And, I will say, I think I'd be the first to say that these things that Bev's talking about are tools, right? They could be used for ill, or they can be used for good. There's a lot of people that use these tactics and this kind of thinking for ill. And be prepared.
It's a bit here, right? This it says our judgments when we are pleased and friendly are not the same as when we are pained and hostile. It is towards producing these effects, as we maintain, that present-day writers on rhetoric direct the whole of their efforts. That's present day to Aristotle. But it's present day now. There's no difference. People use these tactics to affect emotions. You see it all the time. People are always trying to trigger each other into something within these debate scenarios. Always aimed at that, rather than aimed at the argument and discussion of the argument. Hopefully that's what I'm going to try and show. I hope Blue's going to be the same too. It's about time we reclaimed the rhetoric for the argument and not the rhetoric for the person. It's not a very good tactic, and like this book says, it's much easier to show a truth, make it easier understood. So that's what we should be aiming at, to be able to show this. And yeah, somebody, if I will get the link to the video. I did put it out. It is on my channel. I have put a slot for it now. So if you look on the Try Thinking YouTube channel, it should be ready and up on Friday. In fact, I think it's in the videos. It might have gone up in. If anybody wants to try and find the link for us, if you can, please. Right. So this is. I remember that I'm going over this because I think it will aid me in the debate. This rhetoric is an added thing that it's well worth trying to get a grip of if we are going to be going into this debate arena like we are, like I am this Friday with Blue Marble Science. We're doing all horizontals are ... and level is ... They're the two terms, statements that will be discussing and coming up with arguments for and against or whatever, you know, filling in the ... dots and then bringing an argument, hopefully within the rhetoric, to be able to persuade the audience. I'm just aiming to try and put a presentation out there to say thanks to everybody for what we've done here with this stuff. So it's good that I finally get round to reading some of the books. Like I say, I've only just started reading this. I think this is more of a... If it's an art, it needs to be practiced, and the only way you can practice it is to get that experience of doing it. The conversations and all of that will come more naturally the more conversations you have within this thing. Cool. So are you ready? I'll carry on with this. It says, there are then these three means of effecting persuasion. The man who is to be in command of them must, it is clear, be able, 1, to reason logically. 2, to understand human character and goodness of their various forms. And 3, to understand the emotions, that is, to name them, describe them, to know their causes and the way in which they are excited. It thus appears that rhetoric is an offshoot of dialectic and also of ethical studies. Ethical studies may fairly be called political, And for this reason, rhetoric masquerades as political science, and the professors of it as political experts. Sometimes from want of education, sometimes from ostentation, sometimes owing to other human failings. As a matter of fact, it is a branch of dialectic, and similar to it, as we said at the outset, neither rhetoric nor dialectic is the scientific study of any one separate subject. Both are faculties for providing arguments. This is perhaps a sufficient account of their scope and of how they are related to each other. With regard to the persuasion achieved by proof or apparent proof, just as in dialectic, there is no induction on the one hand and syllogism or apparent syllogism on the other. So it is in rhetoric. The example is an induction, the enthymeme is a syllogism, and the apparent enthymeme is an apparent syllogism. I call the enthymeme a rhetorical syllogism, and the example a rhetorical induction. That's brilliant. A rhetorical induction. By leaving a part of a syllogism out. It's genius. Everyone who affects persuasion, in fact, I think we could have done that. You know, doesn't it sound like something we'd do? Sounds like, Aristotle's there going like, we call it a rhetorical induction. Placing a thought in somebody else's head, but getting them to think it. It's genius.
Yeah, you can do that in right way, to fill the gap.
Yeah.
But you can, by suggestion and bad intention, you can suggest a wrong implication.
Yes.
And sometimes people are going with wrong implications.
Paralogisms.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or by sophistical means.
Yes.
It's hard to tell the difference, right? That's the point, I think, that he's trying to say. Because I think, me personally, the reason I'm still here and the reason I do what I do is that I know that I learn when I realise something. It just sticks with me better. And I feel that the best way to, I call it teach, but it's not really teach, is to try and help people make that realisation for themselves. You don't want to tell them how they should be realising it for themselves, because you can't do that. The only experience you have is how you realised it, but you have to understand that you aren't other people, and simply telling them what you did won't work. May even have the opposite effect if the other people have been so inclined or so told bad things about you, right? They would think the opposite anyway. So you can't literally give somebody that. It came to me as one of the beginning parts was somebody said there are two different ways of learning. There's the opening the head, right, and just pouring knowledge in there and hoping that it sticks. Or there's this where realization, you come to realize it yourself. And you then, that one particular thing was a realization. It's a different way of learning, different way of coming to the conclusion, different way of gaining knowledge. I think mainly nowadays, this way of gaining knowledge is given. Shadow giants wrote words in books that have been wrote down by people that supposedly know better, and that's what you have to remember. And that's what's the test's going to be, is just remembering what you've remembered from books, because that's where the answers will be to the questions that you're going to be asked. Not.
And then is that?
Go on.
I was sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Is that truly knowledge then? Because for me, I don't think I would consider that knowledge. Right? Something that's given to you, if you can't internalize it, make it your own, I don't believe that that's knowledge. I don't know what you call it, but I don't think it's knowledge.
Yeah,
I think knowledge is something you have to come to on your own. Now you can something from someone else. It's a shadow giant, I suppose, right? And then create a proof for yourself or internalize it yourself and make it your own. I guess that's possible. And then you call that knowledge. But just pouring it in, like I remember learning in school, memorizing and people, capitals, stages. This day, you could probably ask anyone in the United States to try and give you the capitals of the states. They're not easy to remember because they're not the biggest cities all the time. So it's like, what's knowledge, right? What is actual knowledge then?
I would say a person who knows, for example, a good doctor knows a lot of things about the body and been taught in school by books and knows all the names and all.
A good doctor, because they know the knowledge, just quoting or reading a book or internalizing facts.
Well, you knowledgeable, but not have a lot of wisdom.
Yes, so I would say that this is the same as with lawyers. You can be good with theory of the law, but in the court, you can be asshole. You can do nothing because you are smart enough to apply in the case. And so I think there is difference between knowledge in theory and application. So you can learn more as a doctor in medicine. You can still be poor doctor, poor in curing people. So this theoretical knowledge does not make you good doctor in the field.
Yeah.
So for me, being a doctor to cure people is like art. So you can be good in theory, but poor artisan, or vice versa. So
it just makes me think. When Bev was saying about the constant rhetoric, what I heard Bev say basically in my mind was the constant pushing of something. If there's this constant pushing of a rhetorical point, the less I believe it, right? The less I'm apt to accept it. The more it gets pushed, the more something gets pushed, almost will, and maybe you're a certain person. Maybe other people like to have that hammered on them over and over. But I think the believes that either you're a decent rhetorician or that you're saying anything truthful. At least that's for me in my mind.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit here. I think I'm having a bit of a Discord problem. Is anybody else having Discord problems? I might just leave and see if I can leave and come back, see whether that sorts it out. So
I heard Kevin very well. So
yeah, so did I.
Okay. Quick leave and come back again. Hopefully that might sort it, but Yeah, YouTube saying they can hear roboting, so hopefully that sorted it out. Sometimes it does that. Discord has a bit of a thing. I hope that clears it up. I don't know whether we caught most of that at the end there. Yeah, I mean, I was talking about the actual rhetoric, right? Not the experts about in certain things. Talking about this art of rhetoric, the way that people can their oratory skills, right? Talking, mainly because the arena that we're in, that's what goes on. That's where discussions happen when you're talking. But you find that it's not often that dialectic. There's 2, 3, 4 people. There's, like there's rooms with loads of people in them. And it's not often that sort of conversation comes about. And you're not talking to experts. You're talking to rhetoricians, or however you want to call it. People that just practice the art of talking over and over. Some may call it shit talking. I think the Australians have a term where they do that. I mean,
yeah, the more shit talking,
about.
the less I believe it.
Yeah.
The more shit talking, the less I believe it.
And like it says in there, it's easier to tell the truth, and it's easier to believe the truth too. And because that's what we're talking about here. We're just talking about words and how they're formed together to make pictures, images within other people's minds. And as we've seen, I mean, personally, I have seen some amazing things happen within the minds of people. I mean, Askin showed us today, he did a thing, I think it's F.E. Dogma, who has this ability to literally take what you say, reverse it, and then have the nerve to tell you that the reverse of what you said isn't true. It's an amazing ability for him to be able to achieve a win from stating the opposite of what you said. But what that does is it gives other people, when they read his comment, it's amazing the way that these things work like this.
Yes, so he's reversing what you said, and then he says that this is what you said, which is quite opposite from original statement. And then he is accusing you that you are, for example, lying.
Yeah.
So, yes, this is morally, let's say, illicit, delicately speaking.
But I mean, the question comes is he being trying to use sophisticated tactics, or is that process actually going on within his head?
I would say this is too complicated to be genuine. So I think that it is pre-deliberated. It has to be. I cannot imagine that someone can genuinely do that. So sorry, it means that he is deliberate liar. Yes, but because I cannot imagine a person who is doing that, let's say, on the fly as natural, because this is not natural skill to reverse things all the time, backward, upside down. This is not natural. So I would say that this is deliberate. So not genuine, it means not honest at all. And this person, I think, knows that he is dishonest. sorry, maybe it is too harsh for some people, but this is my opinion on that.
Made a little meme today. It's like that, my Enthymeme. That was just my little attempt at throwing it up together. I won't be using that, Blue. Don't worry about it. That's just for tonight to try and give everybody an idea of... It's genius. I really like it because going over what we've gone over tonight, right? The presence of an enthymeme means that there's a syllogism. So what bit's missing? Work it out for yourself. It's genius, isn't it? I think this is just what we've been waiting for. So us. So this is what we do. Simple. Tell it to your friends. How we talk about logic. Perhaps
So-
one of my proudest works. That I quite like it.
This bit which is missing is that level, that horizontal or level, this straight line. This part is missing here, but it is it has to be implicit.
I was thinking more like horizontals and equal elevation.
That would be changing cause and effect.
No, it's if it's
I
A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C.
Okay, so here we have implicitly assumed that horizontal is equal elevation also.
I swapped
It
it
is not
around.
said
Yeah, I put the
here.
conclusion at the beginning, and then I put the first part of the syllogism in the at the beginning, at the end. Sorry, I played around with it a little bit. I missed out the bit that I'll be using on Friday.
But in this statement, the cause of level being horizontal is that level is an equal elevation. So this is the cause of level being horizontal. I'm not sure if it is sequitur. I have to think about that.
No. This is an enthymeme.
Yes. But
Rhetorical tool. What I've done is I've mixed it up a bit. In order to cause this conversation, right? It induces thought, right? That's the whole point of this, is to get you thinking. That this is so us, so me. Try thinking. The enthymeme is exactly what we've been looking for. I mean, I did say it was about the meme, but the meme doesn't involve the conversation, whereas the enthymeme induces the conversation. These enthymemes get the conversation rolling, and it lets you have the conversation with people about these things.
Okay, so that was my attempt to in critical thinking about that. So in this statement, it is obvious is that level being in equal elevation is the cause of being horizontal.
Yeah.
So horizontal is consequent of the level
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, well, I would say the equal elevation is the middle term to which both A and C can be related to. So the part that's missing of this syllogism, although it's all mixed up, is that
That
horizontal is an equal elevation, right? A horizontal is the, if you have a level tool, then that level tool establishes a horizontal. And that horizontal is horizontal because it's an equal elevation.
Yes, so full syllogism would be if horizontal is an equal elevation and if level is an equal elevation, it means that level is horizontal.
Yeah. Or I'd say if A equals B, right? If level is an equal elevation, and then also if B equals C, the equal elevation is also horizontal, then level is horizontal.
Yes, this is application of this axiom.
Yeah.
This is you are referring to an axiom, and your link between sentences is in adjective or in description of the thing. So we have two things sharing common property. This is the strongest syllogism you can produce.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, you are linking with axiom. I would say that that would be undeniable.
So within the enthymeme, you just release one of those parts, right? So you only give two of the parts, and now which part can you leave out? Well, it doesn't really matter because it's a true statement, right? The syllogism is there, but the enthymeme is the thought-inducing bit where you leave something out, right? There's something missing. What is that something? Thought process going. Conversation is ensuing. It's genius.
Yeah, it's all about the missing part.
and who
how
comes
you place
to
it.
Yeah. Who places the missing part? And how do you do that? You go to
this thing was meant for
it.
you, bro. Honestly, this thing is meant for you.
Yeah. I think it's genius because you could do it all sorts of different ways. If both level and horizontal are an equal elevation,
yeah, that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to figure out the missing part, and I'm saying, man, he did a good job here because I'm trying to figure out the missing part here.
Yeah, it's because the statement of truth is much easier to believe than anything else, right? That you can't really see what the problem is. There is no problem. It's just that in order for you to understand the syllogism and all of the parts of the syllogism, then I think it's genius. And this for them to have said at the beginning that 2,000 years ago, this stood for 2,000 years until science came along with its proofs that overdid this. It's like, nah. I think there's a bit of sophistry going on there. Right? Is that something that they truly believe? Or something that they've been told by shadow giants?
I think it's both. They've incorporated that into their own self. Now they're Stockholmed, and they're adding to the shadow giants. They're adding their own little mini shadows, like mini me's, mini shadows.
Well, the shadow giants, it's a shadow giant. The idea is, right, standing on the shoulders of shadow giants.
Yep.
It leads you nowhere. You're still in the same place. It doesn't matter how big the shadow giants are. You're still not going to help, right? I mean, there are living shadow giants. That's what's so amazing about it for me. There are literally living shadow giants, i.e. people that their words are being used and they're still around, yet they can't use their own words. They don't seem to have the rhetoric, the ability to do this talking.
In this enthymeme, it is a trap for Blue. if you can see that.
Yeah.
Don't say that. Okay, I will not.
That's why it's so good. So good. Aristotle. Hats off, mate. You and your pals. He couldn't have done it on his own. He needs people.
No chance. Yeah.
Which shadow giants told you that, Beth?
Yeah. It needs people to
set up that cruel trap for Blue.
And like literally it came today. I literally picked up this book and saw Enthymeme. And then I'd looked into it and thought, oh, that's genius. Like it's so such a good way to be able to do this, right? To be able for you to understand how people can say words and have a true understanding of how the syllogism works, right? It's so easy to see now why some people can't get certain things out of their heads. It's like an earworm with a song, but this is logic. You can't rid it. The only way to get rid of logic is to go insane. Insanity. No sense of logic. And I mean, that's literally it. That's how far away you have to get away from the logos. Reasoning. It is. It's special. The people that are around here that help us come to these sort of things, and I'd have to say, at the heart of this one is Blue Marble Science. Thank you, Blue. It was Blue Marble Science that wanted the debate about level is. Let me have a look what his original one was. Because he'd sent me a message about the debate that he wanted. Hope he's not deleted it.
All horizontals are and level is. So, I think
He
this
says,
one with the dots.
No. This was way back at the 10th of November. He said, Mr. Sensible has agreed to host a debate on his channel over whether level is horizontal or not, and whether all horizontals are parallel to the plane of the horizon. Here's a first cut at my proposed rules and definition. So that's what Blue initially sent me as a DM. So Blue started this debate thing. Blue wanted the debate. I said to him, do you not think it would be better to go on Fight the Flat Earth and get a few? And then Blue said, no, we don't want, he doesn't want people to see it. He didn't want to give it any more publicity because he thinks it doesn't deserve publicity. He thinks we don't deserve publicity. So he decided to do the debate here. And then he's decided to make it all horizontals are ... and or level is ... presumably because he has an answer that he can put there that he was formally constrained by the whether level is horizontal or not. and whether all horizontals are parallel to the plane of the horizon. So he's changed the actual, call it terms, the statements that we are to go by to form our arguments around has changed. But so I would have to say, for this that we've found today, I'd have to thank Blue for it, because if I was having the debate, it wasn't having the debate, it may have took me a different reason to pick up the book about rhetoric. Maybe it would have come around anyway, because it's Logic Night and I've said we should be doing this rhetoric. But and again, I'd have to thank Raven too, because I really don't think without Raven, I don't think we'd be here on this Trivium day for me to have bought the books that I have, to have just started flicking through them, because I don't normally read books. I'm not a booky type person. But some things you find, they are worth it because of the other things that come around. So on the back of the Thanksgiving and all of that, yeah. Thank you very much, Blue. Thank you very much, Raven, for bringing me the Enthymeme. And
yeah, shout out Raven, for sure. Yeah.
Where were we? Scientific, neither rhetoric nor dialectic is a scientific study of any one of the separate subjects. Oh, wait a minute, how far ago was I did that? No. This is perhaps a sufficient account of their scope and how they are related to each other. Did I do with regard to persuasion achieved by proof or apparent proof, just as in dialectic, yeah. No, I don't think I have. Right, with regard to the persuasion achieved by proof or apparent proof, just as in dialectic, there is an induction on the one hand and syllogism or apparent syllogism on the other. So it is in rhetoric. The example is an induction. The enthymeme is a syllogism, and the apparent enthymeme is an apparent syllogism. I call the enthymeme a rhetorical syllogism, and the example a rhetorical induction. Did I read that ages ago? Or have I just been talking a bit since? Everyone who affects persuasion through proof does in fact use either enthymemes or examples. There is no other way. And since everyone who proves anything at all is bound to use either syllogisms or inductions, brackets, and this is clear to us from the analytics, which I'm guessing was an earlier work, right? Would that be in the organon analytics or possibly? I might have to go over that. It must follow that enthymemes are syllogisms and examples are inductions. The difference between example and enthymeme is made plain by the passages in the topics where induction and syllogism have already been discussed. When we base the proof of a proposition on a number of similar cases, this is induction in dialectic. Example in rhetoric, when it is shown that certain propositions being true, a further and quite distinct proposition must also be true in consequence, whether invariably or usually. This is called a syllogism in dialectic. Enthymeme in rhetoric. It is plain also that each of these types of oratory has its advantages. types of oratory, I say, for what has been said in the Methodics applies equally well here. In some oratorical styles, examples prevail, in others, enthymemes, and in like manner, some orators are better at the former and some at the latter. Speeches that rely on examples are as persuasive as the other kind, but those which rely on enthymemes excite the louder applause. The sources of examples and enthymemes and their proper uses we will discuss later. Our next step is to define the processes themselves more clearly. A statement is persuasive and credible either because it is directly self-evident or because it appears to be proved from other statements that are so. In either case, it is persuasive because there is somebody whom it persuades. But none of the arts theorize about individual cases. Medicine, for instance, does not theorize about what will help to cure Socrates or Callias, but only about what will help to cure any or all of a given class of patients. This alone is business. Individual cases are so indefinitely various that no systematic knowledge of them is possible. In the same way, the theory of rhetoric is concerned not with what it seems probable to a given individual like Socrates or Hippias, but with what seems probable to men of a given type. And this is true of dialectic also. Dialectic does not construct its syllogisms out of any haphazard materials, such as fancies of crazy people, but out of materials that call for discussion, and rhetoric too draws upon the regular subjects of debate. The duty of rhetoric is to deal with such matters as we deliberate upon without arts or systems to guide us. In the hearing of persons who cannot take in at a glance a complicated argument or follow along a chain of reasoning, the subjects of our deliberation are such as seem to present us with alternative possibilities about things that could not have been and cannot now or in the future be, other than they are. Nobody who takes them to be of this nature wastes his time in deliberation. Nobody who takes them to be of this nature wastes his time in deliberation.
Hey guys.
Yo.
Evening.
Evening.
What's an enthymeme like? I've heard of that.
It's a syllogism with a bit missing, with one of the three parts missing. It's genius is what it is.
With the intent to convince the other side, but implant an idea. It's ingenious. It's stick around for this one.
Enthymeme.
For example, this very well known syllogism then and Socrates is a man, and therefore Socrates out this middle term, you will have, if all men are mortals, Socrates is mortal. So you are just throwing out middle term, and listener can figure it out for his own, this middle term. This is example of enthymeme.
So you're trying to hide a premise, right?
Yes, yes, it is implicit or not implicit, but you can figure out missing part.
Mm.
It can be true, or by means of sophistry, you can lead someone to make this premise untrue. So, so you can mislead, for example, the audience into false premises.
That's according to, yeah. So this is according to collinsdictionary.com. Enthymeme, an incomplete syllogism in which one or more premises are unexpressed as their truth is considered to be self-evident.
Yes, that in logic,
Okay.
that would be right. But sophists can use that illicitly also. So you can use that kind of rhetoric to persuade some people to make these premises on their own, but not necessarily true, by means of sophistry. So you can lead.
So,
yes, go on.
So the argument maker, right? Let's say the argument maker presupposes or presumes that one of the premises is obvious. So
yes,
this
isn't dialectic though, right? This argumentation is a dialectic type thing. The point of the argument is to do that. What we're talking about here is rhetoric. It's the way things are presented.
Because in the rhetoric, for example, you can appeal to a consensus. For example, as some society may have opinion on something which is not true, but this is consensus in this society, and then sophists can appeal to this common knowledge, false knowledge, and make this hidden premise from that. So
it's built on a false.
Yes. So because some statement or some conclusion can be made from false premises, and sophists will not express these false premises, but people in this society will be led into these premises. So
it's quite interesting, really. Yeah.
Genius. Let me read this this last bit again, right? This is within rhetoric. It says, dialectic does not construct its syllogisms out of any haphazard materials, such as the fancies of crazy people, but out of materials that call for discussion. And rhetoric, too, draws upon the regular subjects of debate. A duty of rhetoric is to deal with such matters as we deliberate upon without arts or systems to guide us. In the hearing of persons who cannot take in at a glance a complicated argument or follow along a chain of reasoning. The subjects of our deliberation are such as seem to present us with alternative possibilities about things that could not have been and cannot now or in the future be, other than they are. Nobody who takes them to be of this nature wastes his time in deliberation. Got to keep it in reality again. Even rhetoric. Aristotle's warning us. Don't placate to crazy people that talking of things that cannot be.
The first thing he says there, not the fancies of crazy people, but something solid, something concrete.
Yeah, it says the subjects of our deliberation are such as seem to present us with alternative possibilities about things that could not have been and cannot now all be in the future other than they are. Like, it's why discuss that? That's the point that I'm at the minute. But hey, that's why I like the positive thing that Blue Marbles give us, the chance for this debate. Level is, all horizontals are. It's a positive claim that you can make about reality. Wow. Well, that's pretty conclusive then. Done and dusted. I don't believe that was ever said, but nice. Have you seen our anti-globe guy? I don't know why he's an anti-globe. Maybe it's one of those reversals that he can't, like a contradiction. There's no need for you to be anti anything round here. Just be you. Don't worry about it. Wastes his time in deliberation. Let's try and not do that. It is possible to form syllogisms and draw conclusions from the results of previous syllogisms, or, on the other hand, form premises which have not been thus proved, and at the same time are so little accepted that they call for proof. Reasonings of the former kind will necessarily be hard to follow owing to their length, for we assume an audience of untrained thinkers. Those of the latter kind will fail to win assent, because they are based on premises that are not generally admitted or believed. How people have been fooled. The enthymeme and the example must then deal with what is in the main contingent, the example being an induction, and the enthymeme a syllogism. About such matters, the enthymeme must consist of few propositions, fewer often than those that would make up the normal syllogism. For if any of these propositions is a familiar fact, there is no need to even mention it. The hearer adds it for himself. Thus, to show that Darius has been victor in a contest for which the prize is a crown is enough to say, for he has been victor in the Olympic Games, without adding, and the Olympic Games is the prize of a crown, a fact which everybody knows. I didn't know you got a crown in the Olympic Games. I guess that's how times have changed. There are few facts of the necessary type that can form the basis of rhetorical syllogisms. Most of the things about which we make decisions and into which, therefore, we inquire present us with alternative possibilities, for it is about our actions that we deliberate and inquire, and all our actions have a contingent character. Hardly any of them are determined by necessity. Again, conclusions that state what is merely usual or possible must be drawn from premises that do the same, just as necessary conclusions must be drawn from necessary premises. This is too clear to us from the analytics. It is evident, therefore, that the propositions forming the basis of enthymemes, though some of them may be necessary, will most of them only usually true. Now, the materials of enthymemes are probabilities and signs, which we can see must correspond respectively with the propositions that are generally and those that are necessarily true. Is this getting a little bit complicated now? I think it might be, you know. Is everybody following along?
I am.
Yeah. No, for much further we can go with this. Maybe.
But it
Maybe we
might,
should do it in chunk-sized bites because it is like heavy duty.
Yeah.
but it
But I'm
might,
not complaining.
but it
I-
might
I-
be
I
too
like-
much for one
Yeah.
let's say,
Yeah,
evening,
I think
because
can I just say something quick? I think you're scaring Blue.
No.
No, Blue is a brainiac. He can
Not
handle
Big
it.
Blue. No. Little Bev can't scare Big Blue. But yeah, I have to go back to this. I think to go over what it is, and it obviously goes deeper and deeper into the rhetoric. But the idea of the rhetoric is to be able to, I guess, convince people of something, right? It's no good you having all of the correct words and having the logical statement if you have no ability to present it in a convincing way. If you don't have that ability, which is to me the rhetoric, then you're not much good at all. That's why I think that's what I need to be able to improve on. Because it seems like there's a lot of people that don't. So I know I definitely need to improve on how to persuade people of the syllogisms that we have and the logic, the words, the identity of the things. It's basically just logic and, you know, trying to portray that logical system how you can. And I think it's an easier way to be able to do it because logic is, and like he said, trying to convince people of what is a lot easier when it's coming from a truth side. And, you know, it's a lot easier for people to believe something when it's coming from something that they can reason for themselves. If they can come to their own understanding about it, then nobody's trying to influence anybody. You're just trying to go with a conversation. Yeah, Askin's right. Blue is a shadow giant. Big shadow giant. I'm really looking forward to this Friday. I don't really know where to go from now. I'm going to have to look into... is it the analytics? Is that part of the organon?
yes.
Prior analytics.
And analytics.
Yeah. Because he does talk about it and accidents. Was that one of the things that he was talking about?
Accidents is one of the types of categories.
Yeah.
Category, yes.
We went through.
Yeah.
They were the mental characteristics, you can call them.
Yeah.
In opposition to ontological, because if we are talking about accidentals, it means that we are not talking ontological. It means that we are not talking if the thing is or not is, but in which way is. So it's different. It doesn't specify, it doesn't define the thing. Accidentals never can define thing in a species.
There's some things here. He says, there are then these three means of effecting persuasion. The man who is to be in command of them must, it is clear, be able, one, to reason logically. So that's the first of Aristotle's. In order for you to be able to persuade somebody of something, you must be able to think, reason logically. 2.
Yes, this is great statement.
Yeah.
Sorry for interruption, because sometimes you can hear scientists who are just going along the script. They really don't understand what they are talking about, and if you interrupt the script, they are helpless. So you can recognize if this guy is understands what he's talking about or not. Just interrupt his script to check if he's knowing what he's talking about.
Yeah. Reason logically. 2. To understand human character and goodness in their various forms. That's strange, isn't it? Who would have said something like that in today's age? In order to persuade somebody of something, you must be able to understand human goodness in all of its forms, in their various forms, to persuade people.
In other words, you have to discern between good and evil. This is general statement, because we can say who is good and who is not good according to knowledge, what good is and what opposition of good is. So yes, now it is. I think it is so relative in modern days that this is not worth to talk about in modern debate. But yet, back in the day, 2,000 years ago, it was very relevant.
3. To understand the emotions. That is, to name them and describe them, to know their causes and the way to which they are excited. I can understand that one.
And again, you can use that in good way and in bad way. So part of programming in modern day is just bad programming, to have incoherent reactions, emotional reactions to information. That's one of the ways how media are operating now.
To understand the emotions, that is, to name them, to describe them, to know their causes and the way to which they are excited. I think that.
I think that in modern days, many behaviors are renamed. So what was bad in the past, bad reaction, now it is a good reaction. Be natural. Behave as you wish. So I think this is difference between bad behavior, what was considered as bad behavior in the past, and bad behavior nowadays.
Here's another bit that got me as well, I think. Like busted lyrics. Dialectic does not construct its syllogisms out of any haphazard materials, such as the fancies of crazy people, but out of materials that call for discussion. That's exactly why we're here. That's exactly why we're making these syllogisms. That's exactly why we talk about these things, which is what we do. And we don't construct our syllogisms out of the fancies of crazy people, but because of the material needs the discussion. We also know that there are no arguments from the opposition. We know they cannot have an argument, and that's because they are the crazy people. They can't make one. You can't make syllogisms out of the minds of crazies. That's why they have no argument. That's why they have no syllogisms. They have nothing they can base their thing upon, and have to play with rhetoric to the emotions. That's all they've got. And they know it too.
And I think that they know it.
Yeah. Apart from Blue, he's got something up his sleeve for this Friday. Watch this space. 2 days away.
Some special
debate.
syllogism.
Yeah. Blue Marble syllogisms. Off they go. He's got Betty working with him in the background.
That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to have to keep reading this. And we'll go over some more of the fallacies. But like we say, the only way you can practice this is to have these conversations. And we did have a good conversation with the guy. He's gone. He's not here at the minute. At the weekend. Was it the weekend? I think it might have been Sunday. Conversations that we don't often get to have anymore. There were loads of them at the beginning, but now we've changed a bit. We've all grown within my understanding. I don't want to speak for everybody else, but I know I have. The people that are around here and the conversations that we've had have helped me grow and develop more understanding of this rhetoric and the syllogisms. What's it? I'm now asking. I don't know. Might have been last night. It all just blends together. I haven't got a concept of time anymore. Couldn't tell you. Everything just melds together. Yeah, but so that's what more conversation, more discussion, helps everybody come around to have these discussions. So I'd say to anybody, if you want to come in and have a chat, come on in. We'll what time is it? It's only 10 o'clock. Has anybody else got anything? Done the 2 hours. That was quite all right, wasn't it? Me reading as well. I never thought I'd ever be reading out of a book.
And reading to people on the internet.
Yeah.
And having them actually want to listen to you. It's fucking
Aristotle,
crazy.
the art of rhetoric. I mean, can you imagine? It's a fascinating subject. Exactly what I've been trying to do is just to talk to people. Most of the stuff I've learned has come from this discussion. Who's that? Von Neumann. I'm not a FD supporter. I don't know what that is. Welcome. Anyway, well, these discussions, the Discord's open all day, every day. So if you want to come in and have a discussion, then come on in. And we do all sorts of stuff. We basically live our lives around this Discord server, but then 8 o'clock of the night, UK time, we do live shows. Mainly to put it out there that what we are actually really like. So nobody really has to listen to what other people say about us.
Yeah, if you're confused, just come in and listen to us for a while.
Name of the book is, there you go, Aristotle, The Art of Rhetoric. Yeah, we are going to be working into the art of thought. Doing our own series. But this is all... it's all about discussion and how you can communicate with other people. We've been doing it for well, we started with logic, but then Saragaki brought us like the laws of communication, the basics of logic, basics of understanding. Then we went into the Trivium to find out the basics of the words and how the words were formed together. And it's just been a massive long journey. But I think it's all been along the same sort of line. We're just a group of people that seem to be in a crazy place where some of the strangest conversations that you could ever imagine that take your mind to really even stranger places. I mean, like, it's even more fantastic than space. The conversations that we literally have, and coming from a logical standpoint, it seems as though there are people out there that have lost that art of logic. They've become so far removed from logic that they seem to hate logic. They seem to despise it.
Like, you know what still gets me, Bev? Is the breathing of air. The breathing of air pressure. That one still confuses me.
Sorry?
The breathing of air.
Breathing?
Air pressure. Yeah. I remember back in the day, like a year or two ago, like, you really think we're breathing air pressure? Weird.
Yeah.
It's all automatic. Like, you don't even do it. It just, your body just does it. But are you actually sucking in air pressure?
Who knows what pressure is?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Air pressure, especially gas pressure, is. I still get hung up on a few things.
Maybe this question will help you. If you open your mouth, air is flowing into your lungs automatically or not? Or some even slight effort is needed to do that?
Yeah, but your body just does it.
Yes, of course.
I could stop it, but not for very long.
Yes, of course. But I'm referring it to this pressure, because if you if the air is really pressing on you, it would mean that you will have to make an effort only to empty your lungs and not to breathe, to take breath.
No, and then the bleeding at 14.7 psi.
So for me, that's not the case of the pressure, like pressing on you something. I don't think that this is
No.
like pressure.
14.7 is a weight of mercury, right?
In a container.
Yeah, what's that got to do with air? That's why I say, you know, you've got to be careful with these words.
Yeah, no, I know. That's what I agree 100%. God,
I mean,
careful with the word.
pressure's a word that doesn't really have a meaning other than what you put there. It's type of a rhetoric type thing. Nobody's actually give you a definition of pressure. Yet everybody spouts 14.7 pounds per square inch or something. But that's the weight of mercury. And how does that weight of mercury relate to what you've just said as pressure?
Yes, especially gas pressure, because mercury is not gas, I think, and weight is not what we are measuring using gases or solid objects or water. This is what we are measuring when we measure weight. So I would say that this pressure term is not clear at best, to say, at least.
Yeah. It's a perfect example of rhetoric. To see what what happens, right? When somebody is given half of a syllogism, maybe even less than that, what the mind will do to fill blanks.
I would say that pressure, if you fill a balloon with air, I can say that this air inside balloon is pressing on the walls of the container, obviously. But this is, and if you release the air, it would go out rapidly to equalize with the air outside. But this is, let's say, not natural state of air. We are making some effort to do that. And then we know that this air in balloon is under pressure. But this is, it does not mean that it is it has weight. So I don't know. For me, that's equalizing pressure and measuring pressure with weight is just misleading. Because outside of balloon, this air, the same air is not under pressure. It is not pressing on any container. So I would say that this is without pressure. There is no pressure outside of this balloon. So let's say that the air is in its idle state, not pressing on anything.
Yeah, in order for you to tell a pressure difference, you need a barrier there to be able to tell the difference of one being higher and the other one being lower. It's just a relationship. And in the middle, there is zero and nothing. There is no difference in pressure. But in order for you to tell a difference, you need to put a barrier there to have two different ones at either side. If you don't have that barrier, then how do you relate that to pressure? when the very tool that you need to tell you the pressure is going to have a difference between one and the other. There has to be two different ones for you to have a measure the pressure. It's a fantastic subject, pressure, I think.
Yes, so for me, that's measuring pressure of air by means of mercury or water or whatever Pascal invented. For me, this is just silly.
Looks like Mick West. What do you mean the terms? Which terms? I think half of the beauty of this is rediscovering the words. The layman's things are just, they've been taken out. They have been taken out of usage. So finding them again, I don't know, it seems wrong to change the words to give more layman's terms for it. I think just remembering what they were is giving honor to the words and the people that have made the things, because sometimes within words there are definitions. Again, the grammar from the Trivium tells you that certain words actually do describe what they are. That's the idea of the word, to have the definition to let you know what the thing is.
Yes, and changing that meaning of that word means that this word is not depicting what was depicting in the past. It means that this word becomes meaningless.
Yeah. I mean, we can do our best to try and describe them, but that's only us doing our best. I'm thinking whenever anybody gets hold of any of this, like Rhetoric tells us, people will get their own idea about whatever it is and how they're going to present it to other people. The fact is that a truth is a truth, but there can be many ways to describe that truth, and that's for anybody on their own to find their way to do it. Think. If you can find the word and then find your way to describe the word, I think that's where this rhetoric sort of thing is. It's within the conversation and the discussions about those things.
Yes, but still, it has to be in that thing. So if you cannot define a thing that is white being not white, and so you cannot have in definition of white thing that it excludes being white, for example. So it has to be link between reality, outside reality of our mind, and the way of describing the thing should be coherent with that reality, not just making words up, just fancy words for something.
I imagine she might be thinking, like the idea of if you have an enthymeme, then that may sound like scientific gobbledygook or logical gobbledygook. And then in order for you to explain what it is, if you end up saying, well, it's like a syllogism with one of the terms removed, or one of the premises removed, or without the conclusion, then that may also sound a bit overwhelming, really. I can understand that because, I mean, it may sound simple to us, this sort of stuff, but to the people listening, if they're not in with it, then yeah, we want to try and involve more people within it. Would there be another way of us explaining what an enthymeme is and a syllogism? I don't think so, personally. Other than having the discussion about what a syllogism is and how a syllogism works, but that's part of the discussion about the logic. I'm hoping that's the sort of thing that this debate will start off, for us to be able to discuss how a syllogism is and what a modus tollens and what a modus ponens and how they work, and people can develop them for themselves.
I would say that, of course, starting with enthymeme, it is not good, because you have to have previous knowledge about syllogism. Without knowledge what syllogism is, it is very hard to understand what enthymeme means. So you have to have antecedent, necessary antecedent for that. That would be syllogism, of course.
Yeah, I mean, like, I wouldn't ever start with that, because that would be a bad way to start a discussion with somebody who perhaps you don't know, or what may seem a little bit confusing for you to start with something like an enthymeme.
Yeah, so
yeah,
so
she says syllogism is an example. Layman term would be deductive reasoning. I would say that a syllogism is needed to for you to invoke deductive reasoning. So the syllogism would become the tool.
yes, tool, yes, because reasoning, this is general term. So where the syllogism is telling you what method you are using to obtain knowledge.
Yeah. The
Because
deductive reasoning could be under a modus ponens, under a modus tollens, or under a syllogism, right? There's many different ways of you inducing deductive reasoning. It's whether the other person's available to do that. I mean, if they have no idea what deductive reasoning is, then that could seem like a over complicated.
Yes.
I mean, that was took into the realms of Sherlock Holmes, wasn't it? I think that was all Sherlock Holmes ever did.
Yes, it is depicted in that way. So it would be, it is showing his reasoning, and sometimes we can find it funny or hilarious, but yes, this is depiction of how you can deduce something or induce how reasoning works or may work. And should work.
It took it out of the realm of everybody, though, doesn't it? I mean, it puts it into this one special case of a guy who is super special, and it takes logic into like a superpower, if you will, and that one character, when it's not really. It's there for everyone.
Yes. So Aristotle said that. Yes,
Yeah.
that it should be for everyone. Don't hide it. And some people are intimidated because of terminology, and if you start from complicated things, yes, it is hard to go to back to first principles. Then it is maybe hard to understand that. But if someone is starting from basics, really basics, and going further and further, I would say that it is for everyone. Just you need some focus to learn, because you, in order to understand logic, it is good to just empty your mind, because it is not needed to use any external knowledge to learn logic, because this is a process of learning how your mind is working. So really, you don't need very much of external sciences to learn logic, but you need a focus. Yes, focusing mind on one thing at a time. It is maybe the hardest part of this, because thinking involves association also, and I was in first place many years ago when I was starting to learn logic. My biggest obstacle in learning logic was that I was thinking too much about too many things at one time, and this is difficult in learning logic, I think. So my advice would be, don't think too much. Just focus on one thing.
Yeah, try and simplify it. Break it down to its most simplest components, which I can remember saying, well, maybe I didn't say it to QE, maybe I did, about certain argument. It's not simplified. Wasn't broke down to its most simple thing. It was left slightly confusing. That's what we do here. Advanced simplicity is to make everything as simple as possible. In that way, more people can be involved with it, and more people can then see what's going on. Sorry, I got my mind on other things. It is fascinating, the idea that we could have been in this arena for all this time, listening to people discuss things, but never really employed any of these tools that we have. Like Kevin said earlier, the book, The Lost Tools of Learning, that's what the Trivium is. All of these things have been lost, forgotten. And it's really just to aid us within discussion about things so we can learn more. Rhetoric is the idea that you can portray that to other people, to try and persuade other people of whatever it is that you want to try and convey. Where the orator, the person that's actually talking it, is coming from a moral standpoint, is going to dictate exactly where that rhetoric is being pushed, whatever they want to try and convince other people of. We've been here and seen a lot of people trying to convince me. I've had a lot of people trying to convince me of things that I haven't been convinced of. Now, is that because of their rhetoric, or is that because that they had nothing to support it? I did have a conversation with a guy who's got rhetoric in his name. He was useless. He had got nothing. When it come to put up or shut up, he decided to shut up. So I have to thank Blue Marble for going up this weekend. Let me see if I can just get the... we should be have this video. There we go. Share. Link. How's that? What does this look like? In the chat. There you go. I thought Blue Marble Science has put a thing out saying he's going to do something at this time. So I put an early reminder out for the debate on Friday here on the level live. The debate. We're moving into the realm of doing debates over here. I don't know why Blue Marble started it off. I'm hoping it's going to be a bit of a trend. I'd like to do more of that sort of stuff. Gives us something to put our teeth into, give us a focus about something. I like that. Is it true or not? But I mean, do you not get people who come up with different truths? That's the problem, I think. When you establish a thing, is it true or not, and then you find out that there are people who literally have two truths, diletheism. Pop that little axiom in at the beginning that allows them to do away with contradictions and have two truths. It's hard to tell the difference between a truth and the other truth when you have no contradictions to give you fallacies to let you know that your reasoning is fallacious. That's the point we've come to now. I think the point that I've come to is there is little time left for people that just don't get it. There is no point. You're never going to convince a diletheist that there is a contradiction. It's a good saying that. They can't even see the contradictions.
It is hard if they are holding a different definition of truth than Aristotle, which was the agreement between what we think with what we see. Because if we don't check our thoughts with reality, it means that we don't check if our thinking is true. And for example, people which are holding certain models and they cannot even check if this model is real, then they cannot say that their model is true. So the word truth would be meaningless for them. So maybe it would be worth to establish at the beginning of the discussion what truth is, if Blue is using this word in his title, because it may be a very strange discussion about things if this definition of truth is not established.
Yeah, it's hard when well, even you go we have done, right? We've been through that conversation. You found out people have two truths, but then there's another step to it when you find out that they can rewrite definitions on the fly mid-sentence. So not only can they have two truths, but when put into a position where they have to see the contradiction, they will literally go to their bag of tricks and change a definition right in front of your face. And for me, there is little use in talking to people like that. And we will. We do. There's a lot of people now that turn off. They switch off because ECV. It's these realities, the truths within reality, the logical reasoning that does occur is not liked. People don't want it. Ignorance is bliss. At the moment, for sure. And it's much better to be ignorant of your diletheism, I think. People don't like finding out that they're diletheists.
Yes, like people don't like to recognize that they are fooled, because it will show for themselves that they were stupid, and nobody likes it to recognize that I was or I am stupid.
Yeah, I have been fooled.
Yes, this is, for some kind of people, it is unbearable. So they keep their confidence in dialectism to just to be more happy with that, because the thought that they were fooled is so horrible that they will stick to anything absurd to cover this obvious truth, but very inconvenient.
ECV, hide it away. Hide it away and go back to being ignorant of it. Switch the ignorance button back on. I could say the same about myself though, right? If we go back to all of these ifs, but if I wasn't introduced into this, I probably would still be walking around without, and I would be ignorant to all of this. There aren't many people within this particular arena because, well, people binge watch sort of the stuff and they like the binge watching, the non-arguments, the aggressive arguments, the shouting at each other, and the winning those battles, and I don't know, finding liars within the people that you're discussing. There's some sort of a victory to be found on both sides. Well, you know, either side. If you're going into a discussion with somebody, then the idea is that you think one thing and somebody else thinks another. And if you go into battle with somebody else, then you have to try and prove the other person a liar. Other than that, that means the opposite to that would be you proving something. And how often do you see that nowadays? How often do people prove something? And how often do people try and prove that the other person is lying?
The second is easier, psychologically easier. So they are talking about people and not about argument, and they are switching very often topic from, let's say, science into a psychological game against the opponent. So this is sad, but this is our modern debate reality, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's what he was talking about. Aristotle was talking about modern day writers on the treatises of these things, that back in the day that they were playing upon these emotional things. They were playing to the negative rather than trying to be positive, which I think is what Aristotle was saying. If you're basing your things within dialectic upon a syllogism, then if you remove one of the statements, the terms, the premises, the conclusion, whatever, if you remove that, then you've still got at the heart of it, which is a syllogism. It's a positive statement that requires discussion about that positive statement. Syllogisms don't tend to be negative, do they?
They can be. Yes, you can produce negative, but you are not, because opposition of all is none. So if you are saying that, for example, all horizontals, so if you are negating that, you are negating not all horizontals. So it doesn't mean that none of horizontals are such as such. So this is more difficult to produce negative syllogism. There are more restrictions to that. So positive statement is always easier.
What time are we
Okay.
at?
I have to go to bed.
Okie
Sorry.
dokie. Yeah. Thank
Good
you
night
for
all.
coming.
Thank you very much.
See you later. Yeah, I think it's about time we end it tonight anyway. It's been a good night. Tomorrow the preparations will go. I think we'll have a discussion about how we think the debate will go. Within the structure of the debate, how many minutes or whatever for the presentation. I told Blue 10-15 minutes for the initial thing, but I guess we'll look over that tomorrow.
Thanks, Bev. We'll get on out of here too. It's a great show today.
Yeah, thank you. Don't forget, share out the debate. Let everybody know it's already scheduled. They can watch it here. They can restream it if they want. I think it's going to be great. See who else we might be able to get to pass it on. Hopefully, it should be good. And I'm hoping to give everybody the argument, give everybody the idea, and we'll try and structure a proper debate to make it as simple as possible, though. Make the basic debate that obviously people can try for themselves if they want to go for it. Who knows? It might start something new. You never know. One chance, Rob. Well, okay. Request from Rob Keane. We're going to end with a one chance. Anybody got any final words or anything? Everybody no, probably not. Okay, thank you for joining us. Thanks for being here. We do try our best, and I'm going to have to get into more rhetoric. We'll get into the discussion about it. I hope you enjoyed it. Join us tomorrow, Thursday, Euclid night. But, hey, preparation for the debate. Got to give me a day for doing that. Okay, thank you very much. Join us tomorrow.
Confidence in the things that I know. I have enough wisdom to see the logic will be shown. I got one chance to show you what I got. I got one chance to show I'm confident or not. Self-evident reason, deductions and conclusions, and the fools are running away. It's not what you say, it's only what you can prove. You better watch your step, you better mind your P's and Q's. You got one chance, show me what you got. You got one chance, show you confident or not. Don't get caught in the matrix of all of these fakers. Society's spinning, and I'm just here living on the ground. Self-evident reason, deductions and conclusions, logically thinking, and the fools are running away. You're flipping over backwards to show me where you think you are. Your model dictates that you never see too far. Shrinking in the distance, you can do fuck all with an